So we are at number 9, Superintendent's Report. Vision, mission, outcomes, and feedback update is number 1.
Madam Chair, thank you so much. On behalf of myself and the staff, we thank you for your leadership and what we were able to accomplish under your tenure, and you will be missed, so congratulations. And we know that this doesn't represent the end, that you will continue to be involved in School District 5. We are working continually through our system philosophy. I call it our flow chart philosophy or flowlosophy, in which we to talk about our 3 main questions of vision, mission, and outcome. And it's those guiding questions that allow us to really keep our school district moving as our system, our vision that we love and grow our students, our mission that we are focused on academic, social, and emotional growth and development. And we represent that through an umbrella. This is our whole child continuum. It's an umbrella of protection so that our students can cross a bridge of support. And if we can get all of that correct, then we focus on our outcomes of love and grow, where our objective is every student feels loved in our schools through our performance goals of climate and school teacher and administrative quality, and then that every student has demonstrated academic growth in our schools through our strategic plan goals of student achievement and gifted and talented programs. So we're going to continue to work through that tonight, continue to move in that direction. But at this time, we want to pause as we go over our August financial update. And so I'm going to call forth our CFO, Madison Paul, to give our update on our August monthly financials.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Chairwoman Hammond, members of the board, Dr. Ross. I do want to start by just saying thank you, Chairwoman Hammond, for your service. I know you and I did not work together for very long, but you clearly had a long-lasting impact in this district, so thank you for your service and leadership.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, so I just wanted to go over our monthly report. This is for revenue summary ending August 31st, 2022. So I want to start out with the first part where we're looking at our local sources. So the primary revenue source here is our property taxes. Just as a reminder, our property taxes are normally, the majority of our property taxes are collected in the months of December, January, and February. So you'll see year to date, we're about a little less than 5% of our budget. But I did want to point out that we are showing a pretty aggressive growth year to date over the prior year. So if I look at just the first line item at $3.4 million, that is roughly 8% more than this time last year. So if you'll keep in mind, again, that we do collect the majority of our taxes December, January, and February, but that is certainly a good trend that we hope will continue. Moving on to our state sources. So this is going to be our largest revenue item for the year. So year to date, we've collected roughly $12.4 million. This time, the same period last year was roughly 11.6. So again, if you'll recall that they did change the state formula this year, so you'll notice some of the budget amounts and where the allocation was last year is a little bit different. So it's not a comparison of apples to apples here, but we are again showing strong revenue growth on the state side. So overall, year to date, we've collected roughly $18.1 million in revenue of a budget of $212. Next, I want to move over to the expenditure summary. So year to date through August 31st, just a reminder, about 90% of our budget is salary and fringe. So that's where you're going to see the majority of our expenditures go. Through August, we expended roughly $12.6 million. This time last year, we were about $12.4 million. And again, just a reminder, with our August payroll, our teachers and staff usually only get one expenditure shown in that pay period for August. So it's August 31st, and then their contract will start. So again, just looking at the totals, year to date, 16.2 of the budget of 212. And I'll be glad to take any questions. Thank you.
Any questions? All right. With that, we're going to move on to Magnet and Choice update. And so I'm going to ask our Chief of Academics and Administration to come forth, Ms. Miller.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. I'd like to take the opportunity as well, Chair Hammond, thank you for everything that you've done. And you're right, I know you said you helped raise Matt, but you did me too, from my time in the district, from a
That's right.
teacher to
I remember.
an assistant principal, and then now here too. So
Thank
thank you
you.
for your influence and all that you've done. All right, and we have Sarah Wheeler, our Director of Magnets, to give you a quick update and tell you about our upcoming Magnet Fair and our application window.
Thank you. And again, I want to add my congratulations, Jan, and give you thanks for always being supportive of the Magnet and Choice. So thank you. Dr. Ross, Board Chair, members, I'm here to give you a quick update. And if you notice the beautiful picture, the light here you can't see quite as well, but if everyone would look to the side, this is our students. These are not canned photos. We have permission to use their photos. And that is one of our billboards that you might notice as you drive through the district. So this is up and advertising our application window, which officially opens November the 10th, which is our first Magnet Fair to be held right here at the center. And our application will open that morning of the 10th, and it runs through the end of January. We have a second Magnet Fair when we return from the holiday break, and that'll be January 5th, and that one will be located at Irmo High School. We can go to the next slide. I think I have another one. This just shows you, it keeps going back and forth, there we go. This just gives you all the important dates of when our fairs are going to occur. Any information you might need is available on our website, and we would like to invite all of you to come to our Magnet Fairs, and if there are any questions, I'll be glad to answer.
Thank you. Is there any questions? You did such a great job. I guess there's no questions.
Thank you, and I'm
Thank you.
envious of you retiring.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Safety is always our top concern, and so we've had, wanted to give an update on the reunification process in School District 5, as well as an update on the safety forum. So I'm going to ask our Chief of Student Services and Planning, Dr. Michael Harris, to come forward at this time.
Thank you, Dr. Ross, members of the board, our general community, and most especially our board chair, Chairman Hammond. Certainly, thank you for your time and your commitment to School District 5, the students and staff, and all of us, and certainly wishing you Godspeed as you move forward in the next chapter of life. What we wanted to do for just a few moments is talk with you and identify with you the topic of reunification. On the heels of recent events in a neighboring district, we wanted to bring to you just a glimpse, a couple of highlights as to what reunification is and what it might look like should there be a major catastrophe here in School District 5. What I've done is we're going to ask Officer Cato, who serves our Area 1 there in the Chapin area, to come and just kind of do that for us on behalf of the safety team here in the district.
Thank you, Dr. Harris. Chairwoman Hammond, as I speak for all the safety office when we say we wish you the best moving
Thank
forward
you.
from here.
Thank you very
Thank you
much.
for the rest of the board, too. Listen, I know that when things like last week happen, everybody starts wondering about reunification and, hey, do we have we have. We always have. We've been working on this thing for years. This is not brand new. So this isn't something that we spurred up because of what happened last week. We've been working on this continually for the last 3 years, okay? So I want to just give you a quick overview of what we've been doing. What is reunification? What does it mean? It's pretty simple. We're just reunifying people with the people that they need to be with to go home, right? Our reunification in terms of Lexington Richland 5 is if we had a critical incident which had occurred on district-owned campus and individuals on that campus needed to be relocated to safety, we would move them at that point, okay? Students will need to be returned to their guardians, and staff will need to be relocated from danger. Reunification requires logistics from everybody in the district office, not from the schools. We don't pick from the schools because the schools are the ones that we are reunifying. Does that make sense? So we're going to be using people from the district office, our transportation people, our facilities people, our custodians staff, everything that we've got up here, our IT, and they will be trained by us, and some have already signed up and we're going to start really getting into the nitty-gritty of this as we move forward. Okay, what incidents would cause a reunification within our district? A violent, critical incident. What am I talking about? A school shooting. That would cause us to have to do a reunification. Also, gas leaks. A gas leak would cause us to have to do a reunification. And if you think about the railroad tracks that we have around here, hazardous material spills would also cause us to have a reunification. Who initiates it? There's no golden answer to that. It could be us, it could be the superintendent, it could be the safety office, it could be law enforcement. It's just going to depend on the situation. So we're just going to look at all the circumstances and we'll make a decision from there. This will be a collective effort. The safety office, we're going to be the ones that if, there's 3 of us in each section. So if there was a critical incident in Irmo, one of us would respond to the law enforcement command center or the fire command center. The other 2 would go to the reunification site. We have a trailer staged at the district office. It's full of everything we need, from computers to chairs to tables to boards. Whatever we need is in that thing. We'll just pop it on the back of one of the cars and we'll be headed down there and we'll get set up. So we've got everything ready to rock and roll. Law enforcement, and I think this is important, and this is what you really need to know when it comes to reunification. We lose control of some things. Naturally, we're going to lose control of some things. Law enforcement owns the shooter and the crime scene. That's theirs. We can't touch it. That belongs to them. The school district, we own the students and the staff. That is all we have out of that situation. And the fire service owns the building. That's it. It's that simple. The only thing we have to worry about is getting our students to safety. We provide the transportation, we provide the reunification. So what I want to show you now is a quick clip of what a reunification would look like. This looks simple. It's a little more chaotic than you would think that it would be. But we got a plan. We have a plan in place.
The standard reunification method provides clear procedures for reuniting students with parents or guardians after an emergency and is designed to help meet the mental health demands that accompany a crisis and maintain the chain of custody for every student. Reunification sites should include an area to unload students out of view from media and parents, additional areas for police to conduct interviews, and for private crisis counseling may be needed. Churches, civic centers, and other schools could all serve as possible reunification sites. The basic process for reunification is to have parents arrive, identify themselves and the students they are picking up. Next, a reunifier retrieves the students and takes them to the reunification area to meet their parents. Students and teachers should arrive at the student holding area away from the sight of parents and media, where they will check in and wait for pickup. Teachers and students should always remain together and be ready for reunifiers to retrieve them. Once students, staff, and parents begin arriving at the site, a greeter meets parents upon arriving. The greeter hands out reunification card forms and then directs the parents to the appropriate line. Parents and guardians must have a photo ID ready during this process. Once the reunification card is completed, the parents give the card and their ID to a checker who verifies the parent's identification. The checker then tears off the bottom of the reunification card and returns it to the parent. The top half of the card is given to an accountant who verifies the information against a master roster. Parents take the bottom of the card and proceed to the reunification area. At the reunification area, parents hand the bottom of the card to a reunifier who retrieves the student. The reunifier asks the student if they wish to go with the parent and then takes the student to the parent. If the student is not there, the reunifier will give the card to a crisis counselor who will bring the parent to a private area. This was a basic overview of the standard reunification method. If you would like to know more about this process, please refer to the Standard Reunification Method Toolkit on the Texas School Safety Center's website. If you have any more questions about the Standard Reunification Method or school safety, feel free to contact the Texas School Safety Center.
And you see how simple that was? Just like that. So, Dr. Harris? Yeah.
We certainly stand ready for any questions, should you have that. Okay, certainly.
Any questions? Anybody?
Sorry, that was really quick. Because the only crisis that I could wrap my mind around that would be something like this is the incident that happened at Columbiana Mall. Do we know what Richland and Lexington County did in that type of situation when it came to reuniting kids with parents? Like, did we learn anything from that?
That's a great question. We always learn something every time. What they did there was they kind of just did a quick across the street at a hotel place. Anybody that was missing anyone, they would bring them in. So, yeah, that is something that you would call a fluid situation that was happening at the moment, right? So Columbiana Mall didn't actually have a set place for a reunification. We do. We got different places. Now, however, respectfully, that's confidential. There's 4 people in this district that know where it is and a handful of law enforcement officers. And there's a reason why, right? If something like this was to happen, the last thing we need is the parents to beat us there. We got a lot of setting up to do. So we keep that kind of on a down low. But in those situations, they just have to do it as quick as they can, wherever they can. They don't have a plan in place. Fortunately for us, we have a plan in place.
Yes, Ms. Huddle.
In the overview, you mentioned local law enforcement is in charge of if there's a bad guy there kind of thing. Some of our schools are in the county and in the city, like Chapin High School. So in that situation, who's in charge?
It'll be the law enforcement agency which falls within that district. So if it happens in Lexington County, it'll be Lexington County. However, the response is a different story. It doesn't really matter who shows up. I'll give you an example of this. And Sheriff Lott told me this himself a couple Saturdays ago. When that happened at Blythewood, within 30 seconds, 2 resource officers were in that room. Within 1 and 49 seconds, there were 5 officers in that hallway. Within 10 minutes, there were 150 law enforcement officers on that campus from every jurisdiction. So when it comes to an active shooter situation or a violent situation, there is no jurisdiction. Everybody's going to respond that's within earshot. Once the situation's under control, the agency that owns that county, like Lexington County, would take over as command, and they would own the crime scene at that point.
Okay. So
Does that make sense?
And Chapin the town of Chapin agrees. I just don't, in Uvalde, you had a situation, the way I understand it, is there was disagreement about who was in charge. So I just want to make sure everybody's in agreement with who would be in charge.
We are, and within the town of Chapin, Chapin is a response for us. Irmo is a response for us too. It depends on who can handle that amount of load as well.
Right, but if the sheriff's deputy shows up and the chief of police of Chapin shows up, everybody understands that the sheriff's in charge.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Especially since we are the ones that have SROs in that school.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Yes.
Any other questions? And here, Mr. Lovelace.
Does our security team, consisting of the 3 folks from the different areas here, Dutch Fork, Irmo, and Chapin, do you guys go immediately to the reunification mode, or do you go into the mode of the law enforcement in case something like that happens?
I have the actual Chapin area, okay? If there was a vital critical incident in the Chapin area, I would respond to wherever the police command bus was. That would be Lexington County's bus to help and assist them with the knowledge that I have of the schools. The other 2, Ross and Curtis Cannon, Ross Wise and Curtis Cannon, who are over Dutch Fork and the Irmo cluster, would go straight away, grab the trailer from the district office, and they would head for the reunification site and start setting that up. And we have already met with law enforcement partners from Lexington and Richland as well, who know where our reunification sites are, because some of them are going to have to respond there as well for traffic purposes. So we've got a plan in place. There's going to be a response there. There's going to be a response here. And we'll be hopefully ready to roll. I'm sure we will.
So in whichever area it didn't happen, the other 2 go to reunification, I guess.
That is correct, yes, sir. That is our plan. Now, situation could dictate, if I happen to be down in Irmo for something and one of the other ones are in Chapin, it would just make more sense for them to do. We'll react to what we have to react. That's our plan, but we're very flexible.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? we're
Mr.
good.
Leffler, let me just add one other thing to that too, is that there will always be a safety officer, a part of that incident command center, wherever that's going to be set up. So we will always have involvement and be in the know as to what's happening at that command site. So I did want to make sure we said that and that was clear as well.
Good, thank you.
Thank you.
Good job, good job.
Thank you so much. And we also had on there as a safety forum. I know this is always top of mind about safety and security. What can we do? We are very fortunate in our district to have the expertise of Dr. Melissa Reeves, and she is an expert in threat assessments. And so we plan to have a community forum. Dr. Harrison, correct me if I'm wrong, that is Wednesday, November the 9th, I'm sorry. Wednesday, November the 9th. This will be online, but we'll have that expertise here in our district. So we look forward to more on that. And at this time, I'm going to ask our Director of Accountability to come forward, Dr. Van Holden, to speak on our school report card rating update.
Thank you, Dr. Ross, and congratulations, Chair Hammond, on your retirement. Here tonight to speak about our school report card ratings, as of course were released last week, last Monday, October 17th, and reflect a variety of data points from the 21-22 school year. Tonight we're going to walk through that information. We're going to start with an overview of the accountability model, what goes into it, what counts as part of the report card ratings, how much does it count for, and then we're going to dive into what the actual report cards tell us, what are the rating indicators on there. I will note we're going to stick to what makes up the rating tonight, the factors that are a part of the rating. Of course, if you've been to the report cards, you know there's a lot of things on there. We're only going to be talking about the parts that relate to the report card ratings and the accountability model itself. First, there's a variety of indicators that are addressed there. You see academic achievement, English learners' progress, preparing for success, school climate, and then of course you have some that are specific to one level or the other. Graduation rate, college and career readiness are specific to high schools, and student progress is more relevant to our elementary, intermediate, and middle schools based on the assessments that are available there. We have two different ways to break down, or the ratings are broken down at each level, and the key factor in those breakdowns is English learners' progress. Okay, one of the important notes here is that English learners' progress counts for 10% of a school's report card rating, but only when that school has 20 or more English learners who were assessed as part of their assessment program with the Access assessment, okay? Now, when we last did report card ratings, which was in 2019, only 8 of our 21 schools received that 10% as part of their rating. Today, we're at 17 out of 22, okay? Now, the reason for that change is a change in the definitions for how the students are counted. In 2019, only students who took the assessment were included. Now all students who took the assessment are included, but also students who have already been determined to be proficient. So that took our schools that were sitting at like 17 or 18 members of the subgroup, pushed them over into 21, 22, and 23. So again, we have schools where 10% of the rating is determined by EL progress, and that only counts when the school has 20 or more English learners. Okay, if they have 19 or fewer, this measure does not apply. So we need to have that piece on the front of our minds as we look at the next couple slides of how the ratings are determined. First, in our K through 8 schools, our elementary, intermediate, and middle schools, if we look at schools that have EL progress as part of the overall rating, you can see that we have achievement on SC Ready and SC Alt counts 35% of a school's overall rating. Achievement on SC Pass or SC Alt Science counts 10%. English Learners Proficiency Progress counts 10%. The school climate surveys for teachers and students count 10%. And then student progress on SC Ready or SC Alt also counts 35%. Now the next question is, what if they don't have EL progress? So what if they have fewer than 20 students included? Then you can see the points are just redistributed. That 10% gets broken out into achievement on SC Ready, SC Alt, ELA, and math, and then into student progress. So those two measures bump up to 40% from 35%. Okay, so that's how the ratings for our elementary, intermediate, and middle schools are determined. And what happens is a school earns points across each of those areas, and those points add up to determine the overall rating for a school. Another piece here for the student progress part. Student progress is actually two different components combined. One is the student progress of all students in the school, and one is the student progress of students who began the year in the lowest 20%, the lowest quintile based on prior achievement, okay? So again, we have 35 or 40% of a school's overall rating is determined by student progress. Half of that rating comes from the students in the lowest quintile. The other half comes from all of the students. Now, one thing I would note there is that lowest quintile actually counts as part of the all students group too, okay? So it counts twice. So they count as a standalone group there in the lowest quintile, but also in the all students group. For high schools, of course, the measures are different based on the assessments that are administered at the high school level. You have college and career readiness, which counts for 25%, achievement on end-of-course biology, or SEALT. Graduation rate is 25%, EL progress is 10%. The teacher-student climate surveys count for 5%, and then we have achievement on Algebra 1 and English 1, end-of-course SEALT test, that counts for 25%. Of course, if we take out EL progress, again, what we see, just like for our elementary, intermediate, and middle schools, that 10% is redistributed in different areas. For high schools, that's graduation rate and end-of-course tests. Now, one big note here, too, there's a lot of confusion about end-of-course tests and how those count. Of course, we see the annual test scores that come out for every single school. The test scores that count for the report card rating are not those scores. The way those scores count is when a student graduates high school, okay? The scores stay with the student until they graduate high school, and those are the end-of-course test results that get counted as part of the report card rating. So if a student takes Algebra 1 in 7th grade or 8th grade or 9th grade, the end-of-course test result follows that student until they graduate high school. Okay, that causes a lot of confusion because what you'll see on the report card rating does not match the results from the 2022 school year. That's because, again, it takes students who are taking the assessment over a variety of years and counts those assessments upon their graduation from high school. Okay, that's important for a lot of districts that administer end-of-course related assessments such as Algebra 1 at the middle school level. So here are overall findings from the report card release. First, I'll show you the state results broken down based on rating. So we're looking at excellent, good, average, below average, and unsatisfactory. And this is the breakdown for all of the schools across the entire state. I'm focusing on this slide and our next slide first because many of our visuals are laid out the same tonight across that excellent, good, average, below average, unsatisfactory level. So you can see about 21% of the schools in the state were rated excellent in the 2022 report card ratings. About 22% came in at good, 36% average, 16% below average, and about 6% unsatisfactory. If you look at School District 5, about 23% scored excellent, about 18% scored good, 45.45% scored average, 14% scored below average, which is one school, I believe, and then no schools scored unsatisfactory. So here's those two ratings side by side, where you can see the state ratings as compared to the district. Again, you'll note no scores of unsatisfactory for our district there. And then we'll see by levels, so elementary, middle, and high. Now, one key part to note here, when we look at those middle schools, for the state's purposes, the schools that count as middle schools in our district are Chapin Middle, Dutch Fork Middle, Crossroads Intermediate, and Irma Middle, okay? Chapin Intermediate counts as an elementary school because it has 5th grade, so you'll see it represented in those columns, okay? So again, you can see the state's breakdown for elementary, middle, and high school based on overall rating. The next piece is how we performed on each of the different indicators, okay? So academic achievement, EL progress, these types of things. So again, you can see the overall piece, which is the same thing we just looked at. Here you can see academic achievement, how District 5 compared to the state. You'll see a slightly higher percentage of schools in the excellent and the good category, slightly lower in average, but lower in the below average and unsatisfactory categories as well. So District 5 schools skewed towards the top end of that range. On school climate, you can see the breakdown, similar to what I just described there for the state comparison, higher distribution towards the top end of that chart as well. For EL Progress, which was a new one for our district, for many of our schools, compared to 2019, the last time we had report card ratings. You can see the distribution there. Higher number in the average group for us there than the good category. For Preparing for Success, which is of course SC Pass, and biology, you can see the breakdown for the state compared to the district. Similar trend to what we've noted in other areas. Student progress is where we do see a shift. You can see how District 5 schools compare to the state average there. A little over half of our schools in that average, below average group, and no schools in the excellent category. That's our one area where we had that occur. Graduation rate, you can see here how we break down. Again, that's 4 schools. All 4 high schools are in that piece, and same thing with CCR. Again, that's 4 schools for the district information compared to the state numbers, which have more information. You can see a similar breakdown based off of elementary schools. You can see academic achievement, school climate, EL progress, preparing for success, and student progress. Again, broken down by elementary compared to state elementary schools. Same data is available when we look at middle schools. Again, for our purposes, there are 4 middle schools by state definition, because again, Chapin Intermediate counts as an elementary school, and you can see the distribution of report card ratings here. And for high school, same data is available. Again, 4 schools included in that metric, and there's the breakdown for how our schools look in that piece. Now, the key part for our school is, for our district, is what are we doing about these different things? Of course, you saw, generally speaking, across almost every indicator, District 5 schools are performing a little bit better than the state expectation across academic achievement, school climate, a variety of indicators. District 5 schools are performing very well. But what are we doing about the areas where we need to continue to support our growth, continue to develop, continue to build on our strengths, but also address the areas in need of improvement? Our strategic plan that we've established for 22-23 through 2026-27 addresses each of those indicators, rather intentionally so. You can see academic achievement is addressed in our student achievement goal, as well as strategies 1 through 3 in the student achievement goal. Preparing for success, which of course deals with science at current, SC Pass science, and also, and of course, testing and biology is addressed there. EL Progress is a standalone strategy in our strategic plan to address the needs of multilingual learners. Our student progress goal, we have actually 2 different student progress goals, one for ELA and one for math. We intentionally focused on student progress with the 22-23 through 2026-27 strategic plan. And again, you can see that's one of the needed areas based on our review of the report card ratings. Graduation rate is its own goal. College and career readiness is its own goal and is also addressed in strategies 1 through 5 of the student achievement section. School climate, you might remember we selected teacher, student, and parent survey results as part of our school climate goal. And of course here, teacher and student survey results count towards our report card ratings now. That was not the case in 2019, but it is now. And then, of course, teacher administrator quality, one of the measures that we've selected there is also teacher survey results. Okay, so we've built many of these elements into our strategic plan so they can be an ongoing area of focus for the school district throughout the year, as well as the individual schools. Okay? As a whole, I would note that District 5 schools received higher overall ratings in 2022 than other schools around the state, specifically areas such as academic achievement, school climate, preparing for success, graduation rate, and CCR were generally higher than other areas and other schools around the state. However, there are things we need to continue to address, continue to improve. I mentioned student progress. That's a key area of focus for our district and for our schools right now, and has been since prior to our beginning work on the new plan, but has been a continued area of focus as we work to better understand the student progress models, how students are measured, how their growth is measured as well. And our goal here, with our focus on that 2022-23 through 2026-27 strategic plan, is to be intentional about our work there, to ensure that we're going to see ultimately the growth of our students and also continued success on metrics such as the report card rating system and other metrics that aren't included in that process. This time I'll turn it over to Dr. Harris, Dr. Ross, for any questions the board may have.
Okay, any questions? Ms. Moore?
Thank you very much for this report. do we have any plans in place? Like, this is a great overall for, looking at the schools as a whole. But do we have any plans put into place or any ideas about how we can celebrate those small achievements within the classroom with teachers or with kids who have hit a new reading level, and how we can look and process that?
So I'm going to look to two different people here, Dr. Ross and Ms. Miller, in terms of what we do when we receive those results, how we have conversations with teachers, and how we have conversations with students about those results.
Absolutely, I'm happy to answer some of that. So our district, of course, we have our PLCs, our professional learning communities within our schools with our teachers. So when they get the results, they're breaking it down. We have a lot of great information. Dr. Holden and his department have given us wonderful data information system databases that can break it down to every standard that child needs. So looking at that and focusing on that with that individualized instruction. Focusing on our instructional strategies. We do a lot of professional development on John Hetty's instructional strategies, those high yield strategies that'll show us great growth in there. So those are just a few things we're doing, but we are doing a lot. Each of our principals has their own plan as part of the strategic renewal plan. Each school also has that links directly to that.
I'll note one thing too. Back when I was a principal in the district, one of the challenges I had was defining what the goals might be, what were the things we were going to celebrate. One thing I think we've done with this plan that's great is instead of having 22 different plans all focused on different goals, different ideas, as a system now, we're focused on the same goals across every school. Now, of course, high school is different than elementary, intermediate, and middle, but that allows us to have common conversations and focus our work around some of the tools that we've spent the last few years building. We've got a great set of tools out there, but it was difficult when everybody might be focused on different things. So we've been able to have more intentional conversations, more productive conversations, because we're all speaking the same language now, which enables some of those celebrations that are going to be taking place here.
Ms. Tuttle?
I have kind of a related question. Are there goals, things that can be measured during the year and reported? Kind of like you did such a great job with the COVID dashboard. Is there something like that maybe could be reported during the year that we could look at?
Yeah, we have a number of internal dashboards that we use. The degree to which those would be public, we'd have to talk about that piece of it. But for example, we have MAP administrations, right? That's a part of our strategic plan goal. And the way that works is we administer it to all students in grades 1 through 8 in the fall, winter, and spring. So we just completed the fall administration last month. Coming up, we've got the winter administration, where we can look at fall to winter growth, which is a key part for us. And what that'll help us do is inform the instruction for winter to spring, okay? And then we look at fall to spring results as well as spring to spring results. But again, that idea of a short term, let's look at this period of time, fall to winter, let's look at the fall to spring results as well, see how we're progressing. Of course, we have other measures which we use, including grade reports. We have test score distribution reports. I will say one of the big shifts in terms of data that we've done in the district over the last several years has been about less about these report card style things that we just walked through, and more about how do we make data actionable? How do we take some of that judgment away from it and the stigma away from the data? So we have reports designed, and teachers have access to some of these as well, to take all that data and put it through the lens of the current roster, right? So these things happened last year. This is spring 2022, SC Ready, ELA, and math. But if I'm the current teacher, I need to see that data from last year. It's not about anything I've done. This is about how my students are coming to me. The same thing with our fall map results. Teachers have access to that through SC Rally, which is a state-provided tool, and our administrators have that broken down through Tableau, which is a place where we keep all of our internal dashboards, which is the same tool we use to publish the COVID dashboard. But unfortunately, we can't give every teacher a license to that due to cost, but all of our administrators have that and are in there pretty frequently. Just had a great conversation on Friday with Dr. Ross about it, and we were looking at specific pieces to pull from there. And I think that's a part of our ongoing processes as a district as well.
And you had a question, and Ms. Hines has a question.
Yes, Dr. Ross has made his mission to rebound from COVID on an expedited basis as quickly as possible. And my question, you mentioned the last year that we had clear data was 2019. And I just wondered if those factors that you show, I've been here and seen you present these factors and how they change with the EL and so forth. Have those stayed constant so that we can make a linear relationship between those so that we can judge learning loss?
Now, in many ways, those areas have changed. That's one of the confusing parts about the accountability metrics. The last time we had the ratings was 2019. If you look at the measurement for CCR, that's changed since 2019. The denominator and how it's calculated is different. EL progress is different. School climate is different. Academic achievement, of course, we have different tests that are available, different tests that are included as part of that process, from the switch to English 2 or different pieces associated with it. We have one final year of the current student progress metric, which is in place. And then starting with the 2024 school report card, we'll have a new student progress metric. So that makes comparisons difficult over time. It's one of the reasons I stayed away from comparing 2019 ratings tonight to 2022 ratings, is because the metrics have changed so much over that period of time. And will continue to change as we get new data tools, new data resources, as contracts expire for testing services at the state level and new tests come in. Those things always occur. One other part that we're not quite sure about, the student progress results. I noted that was our big area of focus. Of course, student progress compares spring 2021 test results to spring 2022 test results. But we know that in spring 2021, not every student participated in the assessment program, okay? That was part of the big discussion. Were we gonna be able to get a waiver from the U.S. Department of Education or not? Of course, we didn't get that waiver, but the state rule on that was that no school or student would be punished for a child's refusal to participate or a parent's refusal to let their child participate in assessments that year for spring 2021. So student progress is kind of tricky when you're missing so many test results from the spring 2021 administration compared to spring 2022. Whereas the last time we had these in spring 2019, of course, we had nearly every single student in the district participate in the 2018. Nearly every single student participated in the 2019. So you have a much easier time with that student progress piece. And again, we had near 100% participation in spring 2022. So of course, we're anticipating the same for spring 2023. But of course, last year we did not have that full, spring 2021 did not have full participation.
Ms. Blackburn-Hines.
I have kind of like a two-part question, and the first part might be a little silly. I just want to get some clarification. The SC Alt, ELA, and math, that's not MAP testing, is it? That's separate.
It is indeed a separate assessment, yes.
Okay, and then I've heard that the district has recently implemented a new, I don't know if it's new, but they maybe have reinstated something called the Iowa test or Iowa testing for maybe second or third grade.
Yeah.
And that hasn't been done, that wasn't done in the last few years, I guess.
Yeah.
How does that play in? What is that? And how does that play into report cards?
Right. So I'm going to partner with Ms. Miller on this piece as well. That's a state requirement for this year. I will say there's a lot of assessments that are administered that have nothing to do with the strategic plan and nothing to do with the state report card rating.
There's so much testing.
There's a lot of testing. If you look at our testing calendar, which is online, something I didn't realize until I came to this position with Dr. Zachary, right? There's almost, at any given day, we've got a test being administered throughout the district at some level. It truly is amazing how many different assessments are being administered across the board. Of course, I have 2 second graders in the district, so they participated in 2 back-to-back weeks of assessments. To talk more about why we administered the Iowa this year, why schools around the state were required to do that, I'll let Ms. Miller talk more about COGAT and Iowa and GT.
Absolutely, thank you. So it is one of our tests that we can use for our gifted and talented programs to identify students for that, as Dr. Holden mentioned with the COGAT and the Iowa test. So it is one of those that we can use to identify
Does
students.
every student in elementary school take that test?
I would have to look at that. I know everybody takes the COGAT. I'm not sure. I would have to look back at it for that gifted and talented. It's dimensions. You have to meet 2 out of 3 of those dimensions. So I'd have to see where that Iowa test falls into that. So I would have to look that up for you.
Is that good, Ms. Hines? You got it. You had 2 parts, but did you get both of them?
No, no.
Okay, good.
It is.
It is a
lot
lot
of testing
I agree.
for students and for schools.
Thank you so much. I know that the school report cards are a long-awaited thing by some people to measure schools, but we also know that more goes into a child in the testing. Thank you, though, it's hard to understand sometimes all the charts without. And I would ask this, I guess if any individual school, you know, they can see this, I know, online, but if they say, oh, will you tell me where my X school stands in relation to other schools? Do you ever get that question? You know, like, let's say, I know you can look at the report card. I mean, I looked at it like where I teach, but I don't know that everybody can look at that and measure what their question is. Well, how good did my school do, you know?
Yeah. One of the questions we used to have on the old report cards when I was a principal and assistant principal was schools like us. You got a quick glance of schools with a similar poverty index to see
That's good.
what their rating was. That doesn't exist currently. You can look up a few schools at a time. What we try to do internally, though, is help schools with that piece. Now, this data is brand new to us. We just got the ratings just prior to the public release due to some complications with data as they were coming in. So we just got those at the district level. And so part of our goal is to educate principals and assistant principals about that so they can speak to their school. They've been looking at the embargoed site for the month leading up to it, had a chance to look at it and explore it. One of our challenges as a district too, as district level leaders, is looking at all the schools, gathering the data as quickly as possible so we can better understand it as well and support schools with their individual plans. But certainly that's something we make every attempt to do. I believe we're at the next principals meeting. We're circling back to this idea to have more conversations about it. And there's also ongoing support that I provide to individual principals and groups of principals as well.
Thank you, because I do think that's something parents would like to know and hear. All right. No other questions. Go ahead, Dr. Ross. You want any
schools, and we don't like to single anyone out, but when we talk about schools and we look at this information, we talk about, you know, who do we honor and recognize, and I think our focus, as Dr. Holden said, is aligning all this to the strategic plan under that love and grow. And growth is really something we really need to celebrate. Sometimes we get into achievement, but growth is something to celebrate. You take a fifth grade teacher to have a child on a first grade level and they bring them to a fourth grade level, they're not gonna get that mark for achievement. But for growth, they are superstars. And that's what we are excited about. You'll hear later on this notion of median conditional growth percentiles that Mr. Holden will bring forth, where we can actually see who's growing. And I just want to publicly shout out all of our schools, but one in particular, Seven Oaks Elementary School, for their growth this year. They are representing I think the poorest community in terms of pupils in poverty. But if you look at their growth, it is something to be proud of. So we're going to hone in on growth and hone in on making sure every child feels loved and able to grow, and just really shout out while their achievement is not, you know, it's on that train to where we want it, their growth is something to celebrate. So thank you so much for bringing that to us. Also, we have a parent event. Again, Dr. Melissa Reeves, nationally recognized in terms of threat assessments and helping us identify ways to, when we see something, say something, how to keep our schools safe. You know that we're working with, right now, Chief Keel and SLED on their behavioral threat assessment unit, but Dr. Melissa Reeves is nationally known, has worked with Kelly Brown here in School District 5 for our state model. But we want parents to hear about what does it mean when we do a threat assessment in an effort. So tune in for more information. This will be a webinar Wednesday, November the 9th, to hear from a nationally certified school psychologist on how we can keep our schools safer. So, Madam Chair, that concludes the superintendent's report.
Thank you. Thank you.